Every morning felt the same. The alarm blared sharply, dragging me out of dreams. The sunlight spilled through the curtains, too bright, too ordinary. I brewed coffee, the aroma filling the small kitchen, comforting and familiar. The streets outside hummed with routine, cars, footsteps, and chatter. I walked to the bus stop, backpack slung over my shoulder. The air was crisp, smelling faintly of wet asphalt from last night's rain. People passed me without noticing. Faces blank, focused on their own worlds. I wondered if anyone ever truly noticed the little things. Work was ordinary, predictable. Files, emails, meetings that blurred into each other. My mind often wandered to forgotten dreams. Then, one afternoon, something unusual arrived at my desk. A small, brown envelope, unmarked and without a return address. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a folded piece of paper. No signature, just a sketch of a place I did not recognize. Mountains, a forest, a narrow path leading to something indistinct. Curiosity pricked at me, a strange feeling, like a whisper from somewhere deep inside. I studied the map, tracing the path with my finger. It was unfamiliar, yet oddly, it felt urgent. That evening, I could not stop thinking about it. I left work early. The streets felt different, quieter. The city lights flickered like hesitant signals. I packed a small bag, followed instinct, and headed toward the edge of town. The path on the map led to a wooded area I had never explored. The trees loomed taller than I remembered, their branches twisting like fingers. The wind carried an unusual scent, earthy but sharp, tinged with something metallic. Step by step, I followed the sketch. The forest swallowed the light, leaving only narrow beams breaking through the canopy. Birds called in distant echoes. Every sound seemed louder, sharper, as if the woods were listening. Suddenly, the path ended at a clearing I had never seen. A stone structure rose in the center. Old, worn, covered with moss. It felt ancient. The air grew colder, the hairs on my arms standing. I approached the structure. The stones were carved with symbols I could not recognize. A faint hum vibrated through the ground beneath my feet. I felt a thrill of fear and excitement. Inside, a narrow staircase spiraled downward. Darkness swallowed the steps. I lit my flashlight, the beam cutting a path through the shadows. The air was damp, smelled of soil and something older, deeper. My heart thumped, each beat echoing in the confined space. At the bottom, a chamber opened. The walls glimmered with faint, mineral-like veins. In the center, a pedestal held a small object, glowing softly. It was a sphere, smooth, warm, pulsating as if alive. I reached out. The moment my fingers touched it, a shock coursed through my body. Images flashed behind my eyes, ancient forests, hidden civilizations, maps of stars I did not recognize. A voice whispered without sound, filling my mind with knowledge and questions. I stumbled back, overwhelmed. The sphere pulsed faster. The walls seemed to breathe, shifting, alive. I realized this was no ordinary discovery. It was a window into something unimaginable, something hidden from ordinary life. I took a step back, my senses reeling. The chamber seemed endless, the air thick and charged. The forest outside no longer felt like my world. I was on the edge of something extraordinary. Then, as suddenly as it began, the pulse slowed. The sphere dimmed, almost as if it were breathing. Silence enveloped me. I knew I had found something that would change my life forever. I left the forest at dawn, the morning light softer, almost reverent. Everything around me felt different. The wind carried new scents, the air seemed sharper. Even the city felt transformed. I could not unsee, could not unfeel the discovery. But the sphere remained in my mind, its knowledge a constant hum. Ordinary life had ended. Something extraordinary had begun. And I knew, deep inside, this was only the beginning. Days passed. The world around me seemed the same, but I knew it was not. Every sound, every movement, every shadow felt layered with meaning. I walked the streets, but they were no longer ordinary. The city hummed with secrets I could now sense. The people moved like actors on a stage, unaware of the hidden patterns beneath. I returned to the forest, unable to resist the pull. The path appeared exactly as before, almost as if it had waited for me. The trees stretched overhead, their leaves whispering in the wind. Sunlight pierced through the canopy, creating shifting patterns on the ground. Each step forward felt like crossing an invisible threshold. The stone structure waited, silent and imposing. I hesitated, feeling the same pulse of energy as before. This time, I stepped inside without fear. The staircase spiraled downward, darker than before. My flashlight trembled in my hand, the beam slicing through shadows like a knife. At the bottom, the chamber opened wider than I remembered. The walls glimmered with intricate patterns that almost seemed alive. The sphere rested on the pedestal, glowing faintly. It pulsed in response to my presence, as if recognizing me. I could hear a low vibration in my chest, like the world itself was resonating. I approached the sphere, careful this time. The air smelled of damp earth and ancient stone. I could feel heat radiating from the object. As my fingers touched it again, visions returned. Not just images this time, but sensations, pain, joy, fear, and hope from centuries past. It was as though the sphere held the memory of every life that had encountered it. I stumbled back, overwhelmed. The chamber seemed to warp, walls bending slightly, light flickering unnaturally. I realized the sphere was not just a repository of knowledge. It was alive, aware, and aware of me. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, matching the pulse of the sphere. I spent hours in the chamber, unable to leave. The sphere showed me maps of lands that never existed on any conventional atlas. I saw civilizations rise and fall, their achievements and failures recorded in its glow. I understood moments of human history in ways that no book or teacher could ever convey. It was overwhelming. The weight of knowledge pressed down on me, yet I craved more. By nightfall, I felt both enlightened and terrified. I realized this discovery was dangerous. In the wrong hands, such power could change the world in catastrophic ways. I needed to understand it, to respect it, before sharing it with anyone. Yet the pull to explore further was irresistible. The following weeks became an obsession. I spent hours in the forest, retracing every path, studying the carvings, deciphering the patterns. Each visit revealed new secrets. The forest itself seemed to respond, paths shifting slightly, guiding me to hidden alcoves. I discovered small chambers, each containing artifacts, tools, coins, inscriptions, and items that defied explanation. Every object hummed with a faint energy, connected to the sphere in ways I could not yet comprehend. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in red and gold, I made a startling discovery. Beneath a large stone slab, I found a hidden tunnel. The air was colder, mustier, almost like stepping into another world. I crawled through, my flashlight flickering against the walls. At the end, I discovered a chamber filled with light, unlike the dim glow of the first room. It was radiant, warm, almost welcoming. In the center floated a second sphere. Smaller, yet brighter. It pulsed in perfect harmony with the first. I realized then that the two spheres were connected. One held knowledge of the past, the other a map to the future. The realization sent a shiver down my spine. I understood that this was more than a discovery, it was a gateway. As I studied the second sphere, I noticed subtle movements in the chamber. Shadows stretched unnaturally. The air hummed louder, vibrating against my bones. A whisper entered my mind, not words, but concepts. It spoke of choices, responsibility, and the burden of knowledge. It was demanding attention, yet patient, as though testing my worthiness. I left the forest at dawn once more, my mind racing. The city appeared mundane, almost dull, in comparison. Yet I could feel the undercurrents of energy everywhere. A stray conversation, a passing glance, a rustling leaf, all seemed layered with meaning. I knew I had crossed a threshold from ordinary life to a world that others could not perceive. Sleep became difficult. Visions haunted my dreams, pulling me back to the spheres. I saw landscapes of unimaginable beauty and danger, civilizations of light and shadow. I realized the spheres were more than knowledge, they were alive, guiding, and waiting. I could no longer treat my life as ordinary. Each decision, each step carried weight. One night, I returned to the forest, drawn by an irresistible force. The path seemed longer, darker, the trees taller, more imposing. I felt eyes upon me, though I could see no one. The structure awaited silently, The staircase spiraled downward, darker than ever before. The chambers below seemed to pulse with anticipation. When I reached the first sphere, it greeted me with an intensity I had never felt. The glow brightened, illuminating the carvings on the walls like a tapestry of knowledge. The second sphere shimmered faintly in the distance. I understood that the spheres were calling me to unite them, to unlock the ultimate discovery. A shiver ran through my body, equal parts fear and awe. As I approached the second sphere, my heart raced. The spheres pulsed in unison, creating waves of energy that reverberated through the chamber. Visions flooded my mind, not just of knowledge, but of responsibility. The discovery was no longer about curiosity or adventure. It was about understanding the power I had uncovered. A single misstep could unravel everything. I reached out and touched the second sphere. A shock unlike anything before coursed through me. I saw worlds, timelines, and possibilities branching infinitely. I understood the fragility of life, the weight of history, and the potential of the future. I realized that ordinary life had been a preparation. Everything I had known, every routine day, had led me to this moment. I left the chamber as dawn broke. The forest glowed softly, the light filtering through leaves like a gentle blessing. I knew that nothing would ever be ordinary again. Every sound, every sight, every breath was imbued with extraordinary significance. I had crossed a threshold, discovered something beyond imagination, and the world I had known had transformed forever. From that day forward, I walked with awareness, eyes open to the hidden layers of reality. The spheres had revealed their secrets slowly, carefully, allowing me to carry their knowledge without losing myself. I understood now that the extraordinary was not just out there, it existed within moments, within choices, within the courage to follow curiosity into the unknown. And even though the spheres waited silently, their presence pulsing with quiet energy, I knew that the true discovery was not the objects themselves, but the awakening they had sparked within me. Ordinary life had ended. Extraordinary discovery had begun. Weeks passed, and life outside the forest continued as usual. The city moved at its ordinary pace, oblivious to the discoveries that had reshaped my world. Yet I carried the knowledge within me, quietly, carefully. The spheres had shown me truths too vast for others to understand, and I respected that. I returned one last time to the forest, not to take, not to explore, but to honor. The path felt alive, welcoming me as an old friend. Sunlight filtered through the trees, painting golden patterns on the ground. The stone structure stood silently, ancient and patient. Inside, the spheres pulsed gently, almost as if acknowledging my presence. I did not touch them. I only observed, letting their energy settle around me. It was a moment of understanding, a connection between the ordinary and the extraordinary. I realized that discovery was not only about seeking, but also about knowing when to step back. I walked away from the chamber with a sense of peace. The forest seemed to whisper its approval, leaves rustling softly in the wind. Life beyond the trees felt richer, every small detail now carrying meaning. The hum of the city, the laughter of strangers, the scent of rain on asphalt, all felt alive in a new way. I knew the spheres would remain, waiting for someone else who was ready. But for me, the journey had changed everything. Ordinary life had transformed into a world full of possibilities. And though the extraordinary had been revealed, it lived quietly within me, guiding my choices, shaping my perception, and reminding me that wonder exists in every moment, if only one is willing to see it. As I left the forest behind, a calm certainty settled over me. The discovery was complete, not because the world had changed, but because I had. And that, I realized, was the greatest discovery of all.